Wisconsin is renowned for her rich glacial legacy of lakes. 15,000 sparkling jewels sprinkle the gently rolling, farmed and wooded landscape. Early European settlers entering what is now Walworth County in southeastern Wisconsin found clear-running streams, beautiful lakes, and bountiful wetlands. Herons, crayfish, muskrats, even loons were plentiful, as were walleye, northern pike, bass, and panfish. Of the pristine 2,000-acre Lake Delavan, one settler wrote, "From its gem-like waters, all you have to do is dip a cup for refreshment." Delavan Lake no longer sparkles. In the 150 years since early settlement, agricultural runoff and human waste have gradually clouded its waters, killing valuable aquatic plants and providing additional food source for undesirable, foul-smelling algae. Rough fish like carp and bigmouth buffalo proliferated in these degraded waters, displacing the much sought-after walleye and northern pike. And by the early 1980s, most recreation on the popular resort lake remained safely above water.
I go swimming and I get real bad earaches. It's sick. And then when the last weekend I had my friend come up with me, went out on a rowboat, and you see these big globs of slime on the bottom just growing.
Decades of trying to rescue this valued resource had failed. Intensive commercial harvests of rough-fish barely put a dent in the imbalanced, unchecked population, and sport fish stocking efforts repeatedly were overrun and outcompeted. Chemical and mechanical treatments to control nuisance vegetation produced very short-lived results at best, and Delavan continued to die. Carp and buffalo ran rampant, their feeding habits fueling a declining spiral in water quality. The algae-eating zooplankton were devoured, and rooting of the bottom muddied the shallows, shrouding Lake Delavan in green. By the early 80s, lake residents, state and local officials thought they had discovered the cause of their lake problems: point source pollution, primarily from inadequately treated sewage and excess input from a fertilizer plant in nearby Elkhorn. The prescribed cure: stricter agricultural rules to control fertilizer spills and a new high-tech $40 million wastewater treatment plant to divert effluent and its excessive phosphorus load completely around the lake. It seemed that by cutting the lake's external nutrient sources, the algae and other undesirable vegetation would have less to feed on, the water clarity would improve, and a healthier, natural balance of fish and plants would return. But upon completion of the facility, the unimaginable happened: Delavan's worst algae bloom ever. 1983 brought a rank, chocolate-green ooze smothering the lake, and fish died. These putrid conditions infuriated residents and summer visitors alike, who thought money and technology had healed their ailing lake. What went wrong?
They thought the sewage system was all they needed to clean up the lake. What they had forgotten, or we had all forgotten, is that the lake had received 30, 40 years of abuse, and it wasn't going to clean itself up overnight.
While diversion of wastewater was vital to the lake's future health, the contaminated lake continued to fester. It became increasingly clear that reviving Delavan Lake would be as complex as the ailment's cause, and such a complicated project would require extensive involvement and cooperation. The diagnostic team: Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, the Delavan Lake Sanitary District, Walworth County Soil Conservationists, United States Geological Survey, and the University of Wisconsin all combined forces to conduct a thorough study of Delavan Lake and its drainage basin. Researchers needed to find out all they could about the lake and its waters, the surrounding streams and wetlands, nearby agricultural and other land use practices, and about life within the lake itself to get a clearer picture of why Delavan was dying. During 2 years of data collection and analysis, it became evident that the magnitude of the problem went far beyond the shores of Lake Delavan alone, to its watershed and to land use practices far upstream. A lake is a reflection of its watershed, and land use in the area had eventually translated into lake abuse. Urban runoff discharged directly from storm sewers. Soil eroded unchecked from fields, and countless acres of valuable wetland filters were lost to the system, drained for tillage and thus further accelerating the clouding of waters. Non-point source pollution. In August of '87, an anxious Delavan Township adopted an ambitious, far-reaching, comprehensive plan that would bring together local residents, state agencies, and federal programs with a total cost-sharing budget of more than $6 million to right the environmental wrongs reflecting from Lake Delavan. And the promise of pure water began to trickle back into the hopes and dreams of Delavan residents once more.
This lake has tremendous potential. It's a large body of water, it's a deep body of water, it's ideal fish habitat, it's ideal recreational waters, and they weren't meeting their potential by any measure of the imagination. And it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of money, but we would expect that the potential could be met after this project. It could be just tremendous. Better swimming, not any problems with the toxic algae, better fish populations, better recreational use of the water, and it could just be a tremendous success.
A key to this project's success has been the realization that all the components of an ecosystem fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. They're all connected and interdependent. We also realized from our studies and models that to reach the water quality goals we jointly established for the lake, we had to do more than simply encourage and see that best management practices were installed throughout the lake's watershed. It was not possible to hope to see the watershed restored to the oak savanna ecosystem which existed before the settlers came. We simply had to do more.
Because the phosphorus problem could not be solved without simultaneously treating the watershed, the lake bottom, and the fishery, the comprehensive plan targeted elements to curb further inflow of nutrients to the lake, while at the same time reducing availability of nutrients already there.
As we began to design the project, it became very clear that both the fishery and the water quality problem, both problems had to be addressed at the same time. So we developed a design that includes a whole number of different components.
Engineers designed the following project components to work with nature in reducing external sources of nutrients. Improve land use practices in the watershed. Restore native wetlands to filter runoff. Extend the barrier peninsula to short-circuit inflow. Modify the outlet dam to bypass heavy flows, and divert and dredge the Jackson Creek Inlet. To remedy acute internal sources of nutrients, it was necessary to totally remove rough fish and restock a diverse fishery, and treat the lake with alum to seal sediment phosphorus. DNR Water Quality Planner Neil O'Reilly.
Even if we did everything that was recommended in the priority watershed plan to control the runoff, it wasn't enough to clean up Delavan Lake. We found that we had to do more. We're actually working with Mother Nature by recreating wetlands that have been lost to development. We're building a 90-acre wetland here to help filter out the sediment that used to be filtered out by nature. And we also found out that nature was helping us somewhat because the inlet and outlet were across from each other. There was some natural short-circuiting taking place. And so we figured out how we could make it happen all the time by extending the peninsula and by modifying the dam so we could get the water out of the lake faster. The reason we want to short-circuit the water is because we don't want the pollutants that are coming in with that water to mix with the lake and contribute to more weed and algae growth. We wanted it just to move out without mixing at all. When the dam was closed in the past, the water couldn't get out of the lake fast enough, so it would back up into the lake. By making the dam a little larger, we're able to pass the big floods that come down the Jackson Creek, and so it doesn't have a chance to mix with the lake itself. The reason the inlet was dredged is that the sediments in there were contaminated by the sludge from the old sewage treatment plant. The reason for the channel was to remove some of that material so the water could safely move through there without scouring the sludge out down into the lake. All the pieces fit together, working with the farmers to control their runoff, restoring the wetlands to help filter that runoff, installing the peninsula to shunt the water towards the outlet, and reconstruction of the dam to keep that water moving so it doesn't mix with the lake. Because of years of abuse, the bottom sediments have become contaminated with phosphorus and now have become a source of pollution. To control this source, we're going to lay down a blanket of aluminum sulfate to chemically tie up that phosphorus and keep it at the bottom of the lake.
Nothing short of a complete fish eradication would enable Delavan's degraded fishery to finally turn around, followed by a restocking program to reestablish the healthy, diverse, warm water fishery of years past. In the season preceding treatment, DNR relaxed virtually all sport fishing regulations on Lake Delavan to allow unlimited bag limits of game fish by nearly any method of catch. The department additionally salvaged gamefish species with trap nets for transfer to other area lakes. Jim McNelly, DNR Fisheries Supervisor for Wisconsin's Southeast District.
This project happens to be our largest fish eradication project done in the Southeast District in the history of the district, and also is likely one of the largest done in the state during the past 20 years.
In terms of volume of water treated and volume of chemical used, it was to be the largest treatment to rehabilitate a lake statewide and likely beyond. The fish eradication, centerpiece to the long and complex $6 million project, finally came to fruition in the autumn of '89 after years of obstacles and uncertainties. Logistics were left in the capable hands of the Southeast District's field operations crew stationed in nearby Eagle. For an entire year, Supervisor Dick Ribasek oversaw the field testing of every minute detail. Adequate chemical concentration for a complete kill, in-lake mixing properties at different depths, methods and speed of application, types of pumps, hoses, barges, tanks, everything researched, calculated, prepared, simulated, tried, questioned, and retried another way to ensure the massive project's success. Notably, Fish and Water Resources staff designed and built devices called limnocorrals to test in Lake Delavan itself the chemical mixing and migration properties, optimum dose and breakdown of rotenone, a very biodegradable natural substance that affects only gilled organisms. Economic feasibility studies had determined it would be cost-effective to draw down the lake level 10 feet, significantly reducing construction costs of the Barrier Peninsula while enhancing success in the fishery rehabilitation, exposing shallow area refuges and decreasing amount required of the high-priced rotenone to treat the smaller volume of water. It would also afford the opportunity for lakeshore residents to conduct a number of shoreline protection projects as well.
Cut it!
Wisconsin U.S. Congressman Les Aspin, a major force in securing federal support for the project, returned to his home state for a landmark ceremony as the project's implementation officially began.
The town of Delavan, the sanitary district, the people who are involved in the lake rehabilitation, those are the people who have pushed this project forward.
The dramatic drawdown of Lake Delavan started with the opening of the dam on September 5, 1989. But gravity alone would not lower Delavan's 2,000 acres 10 feet, so engineering designs called for dredging a channel at the Swan Creek outlet to facilitate massive pumping, day and night, for 2 months.
The fish eradication project will include the entire watershed, all the inlet streams, tributaries, spring areas, tiles, and other sources of fresh water coming into the lake will be treated with a rotenone. The chemical rotenone is a suffocant as opposed to a poison. The way it works is it coats the fish's gills and prevents the passage of oxygen across the gill filaments. The rotenone that we use is actually a derivative of a natural plant that grows in South America and is used by the Indians in South America as a means of gathering fish for food. The chemical will decompose over a period of time based on the amount of sunlight, the temperature of the lake, and the amount of turbidity in the lake. And so there's no residual that causes any harmful effects to animals or man.
By spraying the 45 square mile watershed first, largely by backpack and helicopter, rough fish were prevented from later escaping the lake treatment by retreat. November 6, 1989, D-Day for Lake Delavan. 2,500 fluorescent floating milk jugs and color-coded maps marked boundaries dividing the lake into 10 equal surface areas, each requiring a different concentration of chemical according to its depth and volume. 10 tank trucks delivered 50,000 gallons of rotenone over the course of 3 days. 70 hand-picked fisheries staff from the southern two-thirds of the state converged to treat the lake. From boats, barges, drip tanks, and for those shallow or isolated areas, spray boats, an airboat, and a hired chopper.
All this ties together in a major three-prong approach where the fish eradication is necessary to ensure the alum treatment works. The alum treatment is necessary to improve water clarity so that the fish that we restock, sight feeders like northern pike and walleye and largemouth bass, will be able to have good water clarity so they'll be able to grow and prosper and control future introductions of rough fish should they occur. And the wetland restoration project will eliminate the potential for future inputs of nutrients from the upwatershed area, and it should improve the overall long-term longevity of the project.
Ultimate success depended on a total eradication, allowing absolutely no possibility for rough fish reinfiltration or reproduction. Follow-up assessments indicated carp and buffalo comprised greater than 99% of the dead biomass. Bioassays conducted throughout deer season and beyond proved the lake toxic to even tough bullheads for a full month. Scuba diving showed no live fish. Follow-up gillnet surveys, empty. Buzzing the lake with sonar, no live fish. And with it, already a dramatic improvement in water clarity.
Today we're assessing the stocking program that we started this spring on Delavan Lake. This spring we stocked 400,000 northern pike fry, 100,000 muskie fry, 2 million walleye fry, and approximately 1,000 adult bass, both largemouth and smallmouth bass. We're getting excellent growth and excellent survival on the fish that we stocked this spring.
Even following 2 years of severe drought in the Midwest, Delavan very nearly recovered its 10-foot lake level drop by the 1990 summer season. Carp barriers installed at the new electronically censored dam will obstruct their upstream migration. And although residents and tourists can look forward to the resumption of fishing seasons in 1992 while enjoying cleaner water, Fisheries Supervisor Jim McNally reminds us that Lake Delavan isn't a done deal. Long-term protection and vigilance must be maintained to ensure continued health of the lake and the watershed it's reflecting. Area residents must preserve and restore wetlands in the watershed, maintain agricultural best land management practices, learn proper lawn care procedures, prevent construction site erosion and stormwater runoff from urban areas, and maintain and monitor improved fishery and water quality.
We feel very good about Delavan Lake. The project, the chemical treatment was very successful, a total success. Stocking efforts thus far have been successful. We're very optimistic about the future of Delavan Lake, and I'm excited about the future for this lake and the angling and recreational opportunity that this lake will again provide for the people of southeast Wisconsin.
I think the real beauty of the project is the fact that the impetus came here from the local level, right here on Delavan Lake, came up through Madison and extended all the way up to the federal level. And I think that's the beauty of the project. People who had differences, people who had differences of opinion, people who had partisan differences all got together for the good of Delavan Lake.
Speaking for DNR Secretary Buzz Bazadny, Linda Bokert.
Simply like to recognize the fact that this project is truly an example of a partnership effort, a partnership which has involved the federal government, the state, and those of you at the local level, without which this project would not have happened. These organizations have brought together the local taxpayers, the local property owners, the local interests in seeing that this lake is rehabilitated. I commend you for your spirit. I commend you for your determination. I commend you for your commitment to a good environment. And I commend you for the legacy that you leave, both in terms of a cleaned up and improved Delavan Lake, and also the legacy that we leave to our children, and that is the demonstration that when good people get together and put their minds and their hearts together, they can truly accomplish wonderful things.
A lake is indeed a reflection of its entire watershed. What you do to the land does affect the health of a lake. On a recent on-site visit to Lake Delavan, the chief of the Environmental Protection Agency's Clean Lakes program commented on the relevance of this project to the future of our nation's lakes. Frank Lepenzi.
We're beginning to get involved more in the protection area because with lakes, as with many environmental areas, the amount of money that you spend up front with some prevention, it's more than an ounce is worth a pound, it's an ounce is worth tons. And the same thing has to do with the non-point source problem. Very little bit of expenditure can prevent 20, 30, 40 years from now a tremendous cost to clean up and restore a lake. So when it comes to the environment, especially when it comes to lakes, prevention money can go a long way towards preserving.
Lake Delavan, no longer a diamond in the rough, but a sparkling jewel once more. So if you've got the blues because your lake is green, find out what you can do to help keep Wisconsin's priceless sparkling jewels in balance with life and land.